Tes tes. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sudah sarapan semua Bapak Ibu? Sudah ya, Alhamdulillah. Sudah siap berarti hari ini ya. Bapak Ibu mungkin sudah diinformasikan semalam bahwa pagi ini kita akan ada narasumber tamu yang akan sharing mengenai implementasi PJBL di dua negara. Jam 8 ini sudah bergabung sebenarnya di dalam Zoom kita itu ada siapa namanya, Michael Evan dari Kanada, jam 8 sampai jam 9, kemudian jam 9 sampai 10 nanti akan ada dari Filipina. Karena ini singkat ya, hanya 1 jam, kalau ada pertanyaan-pertanyaan untuk para narasumber kita bisa silakan tulis di menu chat atau nanti bisa langsung bicara di dalam Zoom gitu ya, menggunakan mikrofon karena kita telekonferensi semuanya berbarengan. Gitu ya Bapak dan Ibu. Hi, good morning, Mr. Michael Evan. Hi, hi, how are you this morning?
I'm pretty good, but it's actually not morning for me. It's
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Oh, you are in Toronto, yeah?
in Toronto. Yes.
Okay, nice city. So, are you from Canada or another original from Canada? Okay, okay. Thank you for joining us today in this event. So we are very pleased to have you this morning. So, a little bit background about our event is here we have 30 courses manager, training manager from around Indonesia. You are gathered here in Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia, to develop the model of the training design. It's called project-based learning. So I know you have experience about the training. We already read your profile that you have 20 years teaching experience in post-secondary education in both public and private sectors. And also you have 15 years college director and program lead in vocational training. So in this wonderful event, we want to hear about your experience, expertise about the training design, including the project-based learning. So yes, the time is yours, Pak Michael.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate.
Yes, clearly. Yes, clearly, yeah.
Okay, now let me try and see if I can make this work as a slideshow.
Yep. Yes. All good.
Kyle.
No, no, that's okay. You just go ahead. Sorry, the interruption.
Kemudian berarti bahannya dari stasiun Bandung yang akan turun. Oh, tadi klik login dulu ya? Bagaimana proses yang menentukan
No, I'm sorry. There is an interruption again from the audience. So go ahead, Pak Michael. Yeah. Yes, thank you. I call you Pak Michael, yeah? Pak is for Mister in Indonesia. Is that all right? Okay, okay, Pak Michael. Thank you very much for the insightful lecture. You give us detail about the project-based learning in your own context. Uh, Bapak Ibu, apakah ada pertanyaan? Uh, Silakan. Any question from the audience? Oke, Ibu.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yap.
Izin, saya Sri Wahyuni dari LKP Modesta Education Center Bekasi. Izin Ibu untuk bertanya, saya menariknya di Foundation from Work. Pertanyaannya itu, Foundation from Work, FITT.
Oke.
Ya, makasih Ibu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. There is a question from Ibu Sri here from Bekasi. Can you explore more about the framework that you use, FITT? I think, yeah, she need to learn more about this framework specifically. Thank you. Yeah, so basically the multi-stakeholder engagement is for the evaluation of the product from the project, right? Mm. Yep. Ah, okay. It must be hard work for gathering them together in one training session. Yeah, from design and until the evaluation. Yeah. Yep. Oke. Thank you, Pak Michael. Ibu sudah dapat? Oke, ya. Nanti kita bisa explore lagi. Baik, silakan. We have another. Silakan Ibu.
Hello, Mr. Michael. My name is Mary. I work as a hair beauty instructor at a training and institute course in East Nusa Tenggara, Indonesia. I am very interested in learning more about project-based learning. I have one question for you, Mr. Michael. Are there any specific methods used in Toronto or Canada to help participants with lower academic abilities successfully engage in project-based learning? Thank you.
Oke. Ada lagi Bapak Ibu? Ya. Oh, we have another question. Ya, silakan Bu.
Hello, good morning, sir. Firstly, I want to
Sorry, there is a technical issue, I think. Oh, yeah, you can hear me now. Okay. Silakan.
I want to ask about
all material with more efficient in a right time by using this method. I mean, project by learning so that we can get a good result in the output with a good value. Thank you.
Ibu mau ngulang atau Oke. Project? Oke. Uh, Oke. Um, Let me paraphrase the questions. So in our learning design, we have some sort of learning material, and how can you deliver those learning materials to our students with this kind of the learning model, with this kind of the project-based learning? So in one side, we have to facilitate them with the project, but in other side, we also have learning material that has to be delivered to our students. How can be those method will be effective? Ibu ada ya mereka dua-duanya ya dua-duanya gitu berbeda ya tidak menggabungkan antara project dengan yang konvensional tadi gitu ya. Oke, thank you Pak Michael. Is there any questions? Okay, we have many questions for you. So before you go to the bed, you have a lot of questions from us. Okay, silakan Ibu.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Michael. Can you hear me? Okay, okay. I'm Rintan, and thank you for the opportunity. It was a good opportunity for us to learn a lot about this kind of learning from you. So my question is, when we talk about deep learning, it's not just about the process, but we talk about the result or the outcome. Now, can you share to us how can we make the students engage? Maybe we can make sure that they can engage to our program from the beginning to the end of the program. But after the program was um, clearly finished, can we make sure that they can what is that? Do this program for their lifetime to encourage their ability to the future. Did you get what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. Can you share us? Yes. Thank you. Because at the end of the day, it was just up to them. Yes, of course, up to them. But we as a teacher wants at least we have something for their life, right? So I hope that this thing project based learning is truly good learning for them to their practical life. Okay, thank you for the answer, Mr. Michael.
There is another question here. Okay, can you? Oke, boleh tepuk tangan Bapak Ibu. Oke, silakan. We have another question, Pak Michael. Oke, silakan Bu.
Terima kasih atas kesempatannya Ibu, saya menggunakan bahasa Indonesia.
Oke.
Iya, saya ingin menanyakan terkait tadi kan dijelaskan tentang program foundation itu ada rencana bisnis dasarnya, tentunya kan ini proyeknya itu berdasarkan fleksibilitas proyek siswa itu kan fleksibel gitu ya. Kemudian untuk konten fitnya ini untuk menghasilkan outcome dan juga berbasis kompetensi. Nah, yang ingin saya tanyakan ini apakah di Kanada juga ada seperti kalau kita di sini itu kan kalau di lembaga saya menggunakan identitas proyeknya itu eksternal ya Ibu, jadi berdasarkan pesanan gitu. Nah, apakah di Kanada itu untuk outcome-nya ini juga ada standar industri yang digunakan kriteria spesifik untuk menentukan bobot kompetensinya. Terima kasih.
Okay, Pak Michael, there is a questions about the standard, standard kompetensi, kompeten apa ya? Competency based, yeah, competency based standard from the industry to guide the project that we build as the facilitator. Is there any kind of the industry based standard for your own project? Yeah.
Worked in the sector for 4 years, then you get the designation. And you must have that designation to teach or facilitate.
Itu menjawab Bu? Tetap ya tentu ada ini ya, ada keterlibatan industri ya untuk menentukan mulai dari desain sampai evaluasinya, dan ini berkaitan dengan stakeholder engagement yang di awal tadi, bahkan di akhir pun untuk menilai sebuah produk dari hasil proyeknya mereka melibatkan stakeholder tadi untuk menilai produk yang dihasilkan oleh siswa. Nah mungkin ini kita dari kemarin belum pernah dibahas ya. Ternyata kita bisa tidak hanya rubrik yang kita buat terus kita sebagai fasilitator menilainya, tapi ternyata ada orang luar juga yang bisa menilai gitu ya. Gitu. Okay, thank you Pak Michael. Is there any questions? We still have like 7 minutes. Is that okay for you? Okay. Silakan Bapak Ibu. Ya.
Okay, hello, Mr. Michael. My name is Ayu. I am from Inasaba Kursus, and I just need your opinion and your tips about as instructional coach, how to make a develop our innovative in our PGBL, our project learn best. Maybe if many ideas. If we have many ideas to improve in our PGBL, maybe it's not board on, and of course will developing our PGBL project. Jadi intinya bagaimana tips dari Pak Michael untuk instruktur agar ide PJBL-nya berkembang gitu Bu. Yep.
Yeah. The question mainly is, can you give us some tips how to create innovative project for our students? So yeah, that's the main question.
We can hear your voice, Pak Michael. Maybe is there something with your mic? No? Oh yeah, yeah, yes, yes, good. We are hearing you now. Yep. Oke, begitu Ibu. Ya, jadi bersabar. Ya, oke. Ada lagi? Ya, one last questions here. Silakan Ibu.
Good morning from Indonesia, Mister. I want to um, I want to speak about our student in the fact in our place. Uh, if we give them team task in our classroom, sometimes several students um, passive passive in their team. Sometimes he disturb his friend and depend of a friend in the team. And this is very bit difficult for us to learn to teach them in our class. And in PJBL learning, we have to make team to finish their job or their task. So I want to ask, uh, what will we do? What will we do to make them active again in their team? Just it. Thank you very much.
Oke, Ibu masih ada pertanyaan? Cukup atau cukup, Ibu? Cukup. Oke. Thank you, Pak Michael. That's our last question from you. So we are happy to have you here. We already learned much, I think, today about the many things. I like the idea of the progressive spiral engagement that you mentioned earlier on your presentation as well. And then I know from your talks that you experience about the project-based learnings. So we are honored to have you here. Thank you very much. And have a good rest. I know it's already maybe nearly 10 p.m. on your time in Toronto. Yeah. Thank you. Bye. Kita berikan aplaus. Oke. Baik. Keren-keren loh, bahasa Inggrisnya jago-jago Pak Ibu. Ih, saya happy banget. Kita berikan aplaus untuk kita semua, Bapak Ibu. Karena masih ada satu lagi, kita punya waktu 8 menit. Saya ingin tadi meng-highlight beberapa hal ya. Pertanyaan-pertanyaan itu menarik gitu ya untuk kita diskusikan, seperti multiple stakeholder. Dari siapa tadi Ibu yang bertanya ya? Saya udah nggak nyatet nama lagi. Mohon maaf ya. Tadi Pak Michael sharing bahwa di setiap project termasuk rubrik yang beliau desain itu melibatkan stakeholder, melibatkan pihak-pihak di luar dari timnya, pihak-pihak di luar dari lembaganya. Mulai dari desain, menentukan desain dari proyek itu, sampai nanti stakeholder itu diundang lagi untuk melakukan evaluasi, ya, evaluasi dari proyek atau produk yang dihasilkan oleh peserta didik. Ya, ada seperti pemberian nilai dari masing-masing komponen dari stakeholder itu untuk menilai bagaimana produk yang dihasilkan oleh peserta didik. Memang Pak Michael ini bidangnya adalah di trading ya, perdagangan ya, bidangnya ya, ekspor impor ya, perdagangan gitu. Dan salah satu proyek yang beliau buat adalah business planning di bidang ekspor impor gitu, dari produk-produk dari Kanada, dan peserta didiknya diminta untuk membuat business planning berdasarkan produk yang ada di Kanada, bagaimana mereka akan melakukan itu gitu. Kemudian pertanyaan yang menarik juga tadi, Bapak Ibu tadi ada bagaimana kita sebagai instruktur atau mungkin learning designer gitu ya, pengelola program, dalam satu sisi materi-materi yang kita sajikan di dalam mata ajar kita harus dideliver kepada peserta didik kita. Tapi satu sisi proyek itu kan memakan waktu. Bagaimana itu dilakukan? Tadi Pak Wan bilang bahwa beliau memisahkan dua hal itu. Jadi tetap ada komponen-komponen materi ajar yang dideliver secara tradisional, dan pengukurannya pun menggunakan tes. Tetapi kita dalam sisi lain harus bisa mengidentifikasi komponen mana, kompetensi mana, atau capaian pembelajaran mana yang itu bisa kita sajikan secara proyek gitu, dan menggunakan alat tes juga yang berbeda juga ya, yang menggunakan proyek tadi. Jadi tidak bisa kita keseluruhan mata ajar di dalam training itu menggunakan proyek ya, hanya bagian-bagian tertentu saja. Nah, kemudian long term effect-nya, Ibu tadi bertanya, kalau sudah lulus mereka nanti menggunakan nggak ya kompetensi atau ilmu yang mereka dapatkan dari proyek itu, kira-kira seperti apa? Salah satu Pak Michael tadi bilang bahwa orang-orang Kanada itu karena proses belajar dari kecilnya gitu bagus gitu ya, dia percaya bahwa ada agensi gitu, ada motivasi internal dalam setiap individu untuk bisa
untuk bertanggung jawab terhadap proses belajarnya sendiri. Ya, ada proses agency, take responsibility to their own learning. Kalau kita mungkin agak susah ya gitu ya, menumbuhkan agensi di dalam diri kita gitu. Kalau nggak disuruh nggak datang, kalau nggak diminta tidak show up gitu ya. Jadi kecuali keadaan memaksa. Nah kalau mereka kan sudah terbangun mungkin proses pendidikannya dari awal gitu. Makanya bahwa Pak Michael bilang bahwa kita memang sebagai instruktur atau teacher itu memfasilitasi, tetapi jangan lupa kita posisikan diri kita juga sebagai partner bagi mereka gitu ya. Apa lagi tadi pertanyaannya? Yang industry base tadi sudah. Ini yang menarik juga, yang terakhir pertanyaan dari Ibu mengenai kalau belajar di dalam satu grup, ada yang diam, cenderung banyak diam gitu ya. Ada yang mungkin ganggu temannya gitu. Bagaimana seharusnya kita mensikapi itu gitu. Salah satu yang dijelaskan oleh Pak Michael itu adalah adanya learning contract, kontrak belajar. Pak Michael tadi katakan bahwa learning contract is important. Harus ada tuh kontrak belajar di awal. Sudah masuk ya. Oke, baik. Supaya mereka komitmen dengan sikap dan lain-lain gitu ya. Oke. Good morning, Dr. Robi.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Okay, thank you. There you go. I can see you now on the screen. So how are you today?
Good. I'm good.
Thank you. Are you in the Manila right now?
Yes, I'm actually at home at the moment. We're supposed to be working at home every Friday. So it's a situation, still having petrol problems.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time today, joining us here in our sessions. So in this room, we have 30 courses and courses manager or learning designer from around Indonesia. We are here to design the project-based learning. And we are happy to have you this morning, learn from you about your experience, best practices about the project-based learning.
Yes.
We
Thank you for the invitation, actually.
Yeah, we have 1 hour from 9 to 10 here, Jakarta time. So after you deliver your presentation, we will have a question and answer session. So please, time is yours.
Okay, so let me start by sharing my presentation. May I confirm if you're seeing my presentation right now? Hello? May I confirm if you're seeing my presentation right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, thank you. So good morning, everyone. Again, thank you for inviting me. I'm Robbie Macalde, and the manager of the Learning Development and Management Office of CMIA Inotech, a sister organization of CIMOLEC. So today I'll talk about project-based learning, specifically for non-formal education. We call it non-formal education. We call it the alternative learning system. So I'll be sharing the senior Inotech experience. Alongside, I'll talk about some information as regards what's happening from the Ministry of Education as regards project-based learning and some other information. So to start, let me provide you with some details on the Department of Education. DepEd, or the Ministry of Education in the Philippines, consisting of around 48,056 schools all over the Philippines. I'm just talking about public schools, state-run schools. So a lot, probably just half or at least 1/4 of the population of the schools in Indonesia. But higher than most likely other countries like Malaysia, Thailand, and others. As regards basic education, there are about 27 to 27.6 million enrollees, both starting with kinder up to senior high school, or what we call as the upper secondary school. Around 875,000 teachers. That's from the 48,056 schools. As regards our non-formal education or the alternative learning system, there are about, this is the latest information actually as of January, 577,406 enrollees, among which 338,000 are male and around 200,000 are female. And from among these enrollees, actually all over the Philippines, the out-of-school youth or out-of-school children or those who left basic education is around 1.6 million, or ranging from the ages 15 to 17. Most of the time, reasons for not attending is primarily due to economic, lack of interest, and primarily for enrollment purposes. So let's go to the topic, project-based learning. By definition, I'm referring to a definition given by the Ministry of Education based on the series of memorandum orders, department orders. It's a student-centered approach where learners develop knowledge and real-world skills by working on mini-movable projects and creating practical outputs. It's also called as inquiry-based learning method. Furthermore, it's primarily called learner-centered approach. It's a methodology. It's not a specific topic. It covers students working on real-world problems or challenges, projects that are done over extended periods, where learners create and present tangible outputs, where students have a voice and choice, using feedback and assessment that are aligned with the learning standards. It supports deeper learning. That's always the assumption while we're doing project-based learning. And certainly aligned with culture and 21st century learning approaches. So if we talk about who's in charge, so who's involved when you talk about project-based learning in the Philippines, we call it the ecosystem. So this is the ecosystem in the Philippine public education. So central focus primarily on the learner. The ecosystem includes the institutional support and governance, direct facilitators, we call teachers, the community, parents, the external community, and then the wider community or the globe. So these are the ecosystems when you talk about the project-based learning. As regards the rollout of the project-based learning in the Philippines, I did mention earlier, this is actually the latest among the issuances of the Philippine government as regards PBL. Although it was in practice in the past, but for purposes of, I rather decided to look at the latest issuances as regards to use of public-based learning as a methodology. By the way, as far as the acronym is concerned, we call PBL. That's the acronym commonly used in the Philippines as regards project-based learning. The latest issuance actually is in 2024, providing guidelines. The curriculum was called then matatag, meaning hard, resilient. So based on that resilient, the matatag means resilient curriculum provides elements on inquiry-based learning. Way back 2023, the pilot of the PBL also mentioned about reducing the curriculum, the minimum expected competencies, learning competencies for purpose of using project-based learning. Part of the rollout strategy, again, flexible school adaptation that started way back 2024 or years after the pandemic. It covers curriculum-guided promotion, PBL activity based on engagement, portfolio development, community-linked projects, piloted in certain schools, primarily focusing on K to 12 and 21st century skills in the region. Support mechanisms, there were developed rubrics, they've developed activity sheets, even monitoring under the basic education monitoring framework that aligns with 21st century learning. That's a common terminology used during the time. It challenges teachers to capacitate themselves. And there's a specific institution that takes charge of teacher training as regards project-based learning, and it was introduced, the National Educators Academy of the Philippines, as you can see there. As part of the teacher training, there are several platforms. One platform is the inset, or they call it the in-service training, meaning you're being trained while you are working or while you're teaching or during your breaks while teaching. Part of this is the 3 to 5 day training focusing on PBL, as mentioned, developed, implemented by the National Educators Academy of the Philippines, the training arm of the Ministry of Education. The focus primarily is on inquiry, collaboration, and public presentation of the outputs. One additional aspect of introducing PBL is the learning action cells. So this is an activity where a group of teachers gather together, talk about issues, concerns on education, talk about the latest issuances on the Ministry of Education, activities, teaching activities that are new, and then you talk about it. You call it the learning action cells. One additional aspect of PBL training is the peer learning and mentoring among teachers. So you're being mentored by your fellow teachers or those who are very familiar with PBL. There are also sharing strategies for managing PBL, especially in large or diverse classes. I'm sure you're familiar with diverse classes, those who are teaching multi-grades, or we call it multi-grade learning in our country, where you do not have a specific grade level, but rather grade 5, 6, 7, or sometimes grades 1 and 2 are part of your classes. So we call it multi-grade. When we say regional pilot, we're referring to the Philippine regions or provinces where PBL are being introduced as a training, or sorry, not training, learning methodology. Some other strategies include scaling. So successful PBL programs are actually being introduced or being scaled up in several regions for purposes of being adopted. So common factors include short but focused teacher training, integration into the performance task, collaboration and sharing of best practice, and alignment again, because the curriculum is matatag right now, matatag in the K to 12 competencies. One or two specific, I'm giving you now two specific examples of best practices in PBL. I'm looking at the formal education. Inset-driven capacity building in the Malitbog National High School. This is based in Leyte, in the southern part of the Visayas. If you're familiar with the Philippines, it's the Visayas. The Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, it's the middle part of actually the smallest island in the Philippines, the Visayas region. So one specific example is in this school where they conducted a 3-day PBL inset for 21 teachers, focus on the gold standard. Later on, I'll talk about the gold standard. PBL design elements focusing on the inquiry, collaboration, authentic learning tasks, public presentation of outputs. So when you talk about gold standards, these are expectations. When you do your PBL, you are being encouraged to share it to everyone else, to the community, for purposes of primarily for support. That's one. And second, for purposes of the community appreciating what you're doing in your school. It also promotes academic ease for both the learners and the teachers. Another example, this time in the island of Mindanao. So that's the many Indonesians are very familiar with Mindanao. It's actually one of the islands, the second biggest island in the Philippines, very near Indonesia, some provinces in Indonesia. In Zamboanga, I'm referring to the Bayog District Rural High School. This time, they use PBL in teaching English and reading programs, where students are engaged in projects that require them to use English in authentic scenarios rather than relying on rote. So you're not being asked to memorize. Rote memorization, which enhance their communication and critical thinking skills. So results, higher engagement, more students are involved, improve reading comprehension, as well as strong learning gains. So we call it the large effect size. This time I'm talking about a school, the biggest public school in the Philippines, based in the National Capital Region, Rizal High School. It's about, if I'm not mistaken, around 30,000 students in the past, but very recently they decided to subdivide the school. So, but still the biggest school in the national capital in the Philippines. Still, Rizal High School implemented PBL in grade 11, senior high school. As you know, where senior high school focuses on different areas of concern. One of the area is accountancy, business, or management, or the AMB classes. So they actually rated highly integrated their PBL, project-based learning. It improves science process skills, critical thinking, as well as communication and teamwork. What makes it effective? Started as a small pilot project. It uses ICT tools and collaborative platforms, and it also documented and shared best practices among the region. So looking at this example, this is how we define with actually the back approach in gold standard of PBL. When you say gold standard, we're looking at designing and planning, aligning the practice in based on standards, building the culture, the teachers, managing their activities, looking at support, scaffolding, making sure that the others are, you do it step by step, scaffolding. And you have to make sure that it aligns with the competency requirements for the students. So again, I'm looking at the formal PBL approach, formal learning. So what were the lessons learned based on the experiences, the three institutions that I mentioned? You need to develop PBL teacher champions. That's one. You need to strengthen collaborative planning among teachers. You need to share success stories. Again, that's part of the gold standard. Talk about your success. You develop learning action cells. You provide or you encourage to do regional conferences about project-based learning, your success factors. You encourage to provide information in bulletin boards, specifically in division offices. Within the region, there are smaller ministry offices, you call it division offices. So you encourage them, talk about the success, talk about the situation, talk about the PBL practices. And most certainly, if you want to sustain programs, you need to have steering committees for continuing support. So based on this, what are the key takeaways? So you need to start small. That's one. And then you scale it gradually. You need to invest on teacher professional development. So, and then you need to align project-based learning with curriculum standards. And you need to have strong school and community partnerships. Additional key lessons again. PBL improves engagement and problem-solving skills. It promotes positive learning gains as observed in science subjects. It enhances communication, collaboration, and creativity. So because there are lessons, insights, there are success indicators, definitely there would be challenges. So these are common challenges. Among all of the other challenges, the typical situation is teacher readiness. I think everyone knows this. You cannot just introduce a methodology without making sure that everyone understands this. So in some situations, the teachers are not ready. PBL sometimes is a bit difficult when you have large class sizes. So by practice, you need to make sure that you understand each one's projects, each student's projects, to be able to support it, to be able to encourage them to think outside of the box, so to speak. But if you do have large classes, it will be difficult to monitor. It will be before monitoring, actually, it will be difficult to introduce, to tell them or to inform them how to think outside of the box. So typically, there are also limited resources concerns, time constraints. Just imagine you only have 45 minutes for your classes, so you need to make use of that time. So you need to be fast in a way. So heavy curriculum demands is some concerns, despite the fact that the Ministry of Education decided to lessen the required competencies for students. There are still some concerns as regards the heavy curriculum demands. Some recommended strategies as regards the situation. So you start again with, as mentioned earlier, start small. You align projects with the standards, invest heavily on teacher training, strengthen leadership support, again, similar situation, and engage the community as partners. So again, I just mentioned about the formal education using PBL as a methodology. This time, let's look at the non-formal education, or in the Philippines, you call it the alternative learning system. ALS, as defined by a law in the Philippines, or Republic Act 11510, focuses on a parallel learning system, a viable alternative to the existing formal education system, and it offers opportunities for out-of-school children, the youth, as well as adults, including our indigenous peoples. So this is an opportunity. In certain cases, you call it second chance opportunity to learn. Those who decided to leave the school for purposes of employment, for purposes because of concerns due to poverty, concerns on family requirements, and others. So if we talk about ALS in general, so ALS regards looking at the formal education. ALS is a non-formal education approach. However, parallel tracks, meaning what you're learning from the basic education, you are also expected to learn in the non-formal education, but with different methodologies. Framework, recognize root. So this is a way on what happens next. So the assumption always is recognize the outcomes, further education after completion of the degree, sorry, not the degree, diploma. The senior high school diploma, you're expected to work at least, to start your business, to become entrepreneurs, pursue higher education. So the expectations is you want to be part of the university students. So again, just to sum up how we go about doing ALS, it starts with targeting enrollment, and then do a modified learning approach, and then recognition by way of assessment. Typically, when you talk about assessments in ALS, these are the typical performance indicators or criteria when you do ALS learning. So you reference design programs, you look at the alignment of the curriculum, you look at the report organization and peer evaluation as well. So why am I talking about ALS per se? Incidentally, we developed a program funded by the United States Agency for International Development way back years before the pandemic. We call it Opportunity 2.0. It's a 5-year project in partnership again with, again, as mentioned, USAID. The main contractor of USAID is Education Development Center based in Washington, D.C., and the Ministry of Education's Bureau of Alternative Education. The goal is to contribute to system strengthening of national and local capacities in implementing alternative learning system. It covers O2 sites. They call it O2 sites. So not necessarily the entire Philippines, but rather Opportunity 2.0 sites. These were identified based on a learning needs assessment. Among all the provinces and cities in the Philippines, these are the concentration of ALS learners are here. That's one. Second, the government felt during that time, in support of the SAID, felt that these provinces and cities needs all the help it can as regards alternative learning system. So in certain instances, you can also call it a pilot. These are the pilot provinces, pilot cities. The assumptions they will be able to spread all over the Philippines based on their learnings, and what they get what they receive from the capacity building programs that were developed for them. The Opportunity 2.0 is a very big project during the time. It does not necessarily cover only capacity building for teachers. It also provides a lot of programs for students of alternative learning system. I specifically mentioned this because the biggest part or biggest chunk of that Opportunity 2.0 is on capacity building for teachers and ALS implementers. When you say ALS implementers, we're referring to some parents, we're referring to supervisors, we're referring to community organizers who are helping the Ministry of Education in providing second chance learning opportunities for those who were left behind, so to speak. One of the biggest part or portion of this ALS 2.0 is a series of capacity building programs. We develop micro-credentials for teachers. We introduce micro-credentials. These are the courses that were developed based on the learning needs assessment. And again, as mentioned, when you partner with academic institutions, we purposely develop programs that would lead to micro-credentialing. And eventually, upon completion of all these 3 programs, teachers or the ALS implementers who are involved or who completed the courses are also entitled to, upon enrollment, to a graduate diploma certificate, so a macro credentials, from a micro credential leading to a macro credentials. This is a requirement. The partners that were sought to co-develop the courses for the ALS implementers came from the 3 big areas in the Philippines, the National Capital Region, from Visayas and Mindanao. So Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, the 3 main regions in the Philippines. So part of that learning is a process, a framework on how we develop the ALS Opportunity 2.0 program, capacity building program portion of the Philippine ALS implementers. As you can see at the right side of my presentation is the number of recipients, ALS course recipients. There are around 4,514 ALS implementers who were capacitated in the different aspects or different course offerings developed by the Opportunity 2.0 project. Part of that is the ALS technical assistance. We also provided purposely reproduced copies of the materials that were developed as part of the learning outcome, learning programs. This program at the right side, as you can see, is one of the courses that were developed in cooperation with the university partners. Sorry. No. This is again part of the practice in PBL. We do play, laro meaning play. Likha means create. And linang means strengthen or strengthening. So this is one of the courses developed for the ALS teachers, primarily introducing project-based learning in the course itself. What you are seeing right now are examples of publications developed. I'm actually sharing this later. I'll share this later for everyone's information and for reference as well. The Ministry of Education, with our assistance as well, developed the ALS Education Skills Training Framework or Handbook for Course Implementers. So this is a very rich information on what ALS is all about and how you develop programs, projects, including the PBL methodology was clearly discussed in this program. Another publication or publications, part of the programs developed under the ALS 2.0 program is the Be Your Own Boss project, a handbook that will teach students to become entrepreneurs. And the other is work-based learning, another publication, encouraging them to learn from the experience of others. Additional publication covers the alternative learning system, learning needs assessment report, and also making sure that although there are no specific classrooms requirements for ELS, but there are community centers that are encouraged so that the ALS learners will be able to gather at least once a month, once a year, or twice perhaps, or more than a week or something, to make sure that they have at least one specific space where they could gather and talk about their learnings, at least, and also to encourage them to do project-based learning as well. So we did an analysis of the ALS learning centers, a survey among the communities with ALS learners, alternative learning system learners, what their needs are. So if you're looking at the Philippine formal classrooms, docking around 165,000, the ALS community centers are about 20,000 community centers are lucky. When I say community centers, these are local government funded centers, not necessarily looking like a typical classroom, but rather just a space where the ALS learners and implementers will be able to gather to discuss some activities, alternative learning activities. So now let's focus on our PBL. Again, this is one of the projects under the Opportunity 2.0. We developed a course way back around 2022. We called it the Project-Based Learning Course for ALS Teachers and Implementers. It covers 3 lessons, understanding project-based learning, implementing PBL for ALS learner or ALS, and an integration and celebration. We call it celebration purposely to make sure that they'll be able to understand, they'll be able to recognize what they've done for appreciation. So project-based learning for PBL covers the content, curriculum, or you can the strand, the learning materials, the processes, instructional strategies, the time frame, and then assessment. We call it authentic assessment for purposes of making sure that this is not a typical assessment. So it provides varied pathways as well. So a core of the PBL practice as regards alternative learning system is collaboration or collaborative and experiential approach, iterative and reflective. Meaning, iterative meaning it does not necessarily mean that it's cast in stone. So you make sure that there are improvements along the way, making sure that while doing the improvements, you reflect on the practices. Making sure that there would be authentic assessments and that the assessments activities are learner driven. And definitely, despite the fact that it's non-formal, there should still be discipline. It should be disciplinary and as well as rigorous. So, as regards the practice of PBL for the alternative learning system, learners have an opportunity to input their own voices and choice in the design, development, and completion of the project. It's on their own. You're familiar perhaps with the term sage. We're no longer sage in the sage. This is literally saying the expert is just a guide on the side when you talk about PBL in alternative learning system. So the implementation process, we organize the learners. We provide clustering. We created groups based on common learning goals, terminal goals I'll talk about ELA later on. What is ELA? Generating project ideas using real life context. Generate ALS learner-driven projects, prepare PBL detailed learning path, and preparation of the detailed plan later on. Some of the tools that we used during the ALS program, students planning chart, a PBL collaborative group profile, and a PBL detailed. Key components for implementing a good project-based learning for ALS again, curriculum and assessments that support teachers in designing rigorous interdisciplinary project units. Interdisciplinary teachers team to support high-quality design and coordinate student learning and needs. Professional development and training to support teachers in implementing PBL. Flexible structures that enable students to receive timely and appropriate support for their projects. A collaborative culture that fosters learner agency and expectations for learning. Again, PBL learning goals or milestones. Individual output becomes team outputs. A culminating project becomes a PBL output. Another approach, curriculum implementation. You look at the individual learning strand. You harmonize the learning strands and talk about PBL planning for the purpose of having unified learning teams and scenarios. That you're aligned with what you're doing as regards project-based learning is aligned with curriculum. You need to have curriculum mapping and analysis. So for this purpose, we enhance curriculum delivery and assessment. I'm not saying that we're changing the curriculum, but rather enhancing the curriculum. We identify repetitions within the scope and sequence of the learning competencies. We guide teachers in adjusting lessons for all learners. We assist in identifying the common threads of understanding between specific learning area and other learning areas. Help in building an interdisciplinary scope, making sure, I'm sure Director Kaya is familiar with this interdisciplinary approach, similar to what we're supposed to be doing for the STEM Ed project. You need to understand, we need to implement interdisciplinary approaches in doing it, improving horizontal and vertical curriculum articulations. Some standards or learning competencies that we need to look at, endurance, leveraging, and essentiality. A standard that focus on the knowledge and skills that are necessary for the students to succeed. So again, as regards the project does not necessarily have to be tangible output. It can be that should be submitted at the end. It can be an alternative process, a technique, or an alternative system to address or enhance the present situation. We just need to make sure that these projects are student-driven, not teacher-driven, and the process and product-oriented. So meaning you have a specific project at the end, or you're looking at making sure that the project that you're looking at is to enhancing an existing process. Just like saying, one perfect example, how do you make a pie perhaps? So that's the process. The process of making a pie requires the following situation. You have to have ingredients, you need to identify the tools that you need to make sure to use to make sure that you're able to bake the pie. So that's the process. So if you're looking at enhancing the process, what is your project? Your project is to enhance the process of baking a pie. So what do? You identify steps to make sure that you're able to bake a pie in perhaps less than an hour. So that's the process. You're creating a project that will encourage the learner to look at the process, to enhance it, to make sure that it will lead to a facilitative approach. So making sure that you're lessening the time to bake a pie or something. So that's typical example. I hope you're able to understand what I'm saying. So given the situation sometimes that alternative learning system that necessarily mean face-to-face activities, the activities are virtually collaborative. So you collaborate, whether face-to-face or virtual, you do something about it. That not necessarily mean that they need to do Zoom activity. You can actually do it by way of texting, sending an SMS messages. So this is what we're looking for. We're looking at as regards a typical PBL project plan. So this was developed based on to make sure that you're looking at the right way. So introducing the PBL. You usually expected to answer the following questions. Saan meaning where? Ano means what? Ano is a Tagalog word? Saan is a Tagalog word again, meaning where? Paano means what or how. So you look at your project. Who would be benefiting? What is your project and how do you do it? So this is a template for developing your project. So project-based learning starts with the driving questions or context that will lead to creation of a final product. In the process, students work on open-ended assignments that could be more than one problem or scenario. Students analyze the problem and generate solutions. Students design and develop a prototype of the solution or product. You refine the solution based on feedback from the teachers and or peers. We call it authentic assessments. And students still learn the rigor of disciplinary learning competencies, but you do it informally. So parts of the PBL detailed plan is a project context taken from the student's collaborative learning chart. PBL calendar, entry stage, developmental stage, meaning you're now developing your product, your service that you want to deliver, and a culminating stage, the final part. What you can see at the bottom of my presentation is a template. Example for a project-based plan. So what are the learning activities? What materials and resources are needed? Your learning goal. Why are you doing this? Assessment strategies and your milestones and your final output. Okay, Another template that you're looking at is a PBL Collaborative Learning Group Profile. So as an assessor, as a ALS implementer, you look at what's happening right now. So what are the learners doing right now? What are they doing? What are their individual learning activities? Brief recognition of the proposed final project, and the list of learning materials and other resources that are needed. I mentioned earlier an ILA, an individual learning agreement. This is a document that are being uh, developed by teachers, ALS implementers and teachers, not necessarily ALS implementers, for purposes of assessing the progress of the students or the ALS learners. So this is another template. So we call it the individual learning agreement. What do you plan as a learner? What are your expectations at the end of the engagement, at the end of your plan, a project plan? What are your expectations? So again, everyone, that's alternative learning system, project-based learning. Thank you, everyone. So I'm now ready to respond to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robbie, for your insightful presentation covering the project-based learning from formal education context and also from the non-formal education context, yeah, especially from the ILS, Alternative Learning System. Now is time. We only have 15 minutes for question and answer. Is there any question from the audience? Please raise your hands. Oke, Ibu, silakan mic-nya mungkin. Yes, so we have a question here.
Hello, Mr. Robbie. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Akika. I have some question, but it's about your experience. Based on your experience, does the industry truly prefer graduate from project PBL program compared to graduate from conventional learning method, especially for learner from the ALS in the Philippines?
Sorry, I seem to have lost some portions of the question.
Boleh diulang, Bu?
I'm not sure what happened. So what you're asking is, correct me if I'm wrong, correct me if I heard it correctly. If the community, the industry are supportive of the ALS learners, is that the question? Are they supportive in the sense that they are
No.
employing some of the ALS learners?
No, sir.
Sorry,
It's
I
about does the industry truly prefer graduate from PBL program
okay. Yes,
compare to the graduate from conventional learning method, especially from learner
okay.
in ALS?
Okay. Thank you for that. Sorry, so somewhat it's related to what I'm saying. Okay. It depends. If the industry involved needs, let us say, mechanics, uh, I'm sorry. In the Philippines, a primary requirement to be employed, you need to be a university or degree graduate, a degree holder. That's one. But again, if there are also preferences, the assumption always when the government introduces K to 12, the assumption is you'll be able to work after graduation from K to 12, meaning after graduation from senior high school, you will be able to work. However, it depends on your preferences. If your preference is to look at the vocational track, if you're into the vocational track in the senior high school, the assumption is you'll be able to work always. There are industries that needs, let us say, mechanics, electricians. Definitely, they will favor someone who are very familiar with electricity, manipulation electricity, mechanics, or something. As against someone who just graduated from a certain degree with a certain degree. So those are preference. It depends on a situation, depends on the industry. But if you're looking at the formal, the white collar jobs, definitely a requirement is, I think it's a common situation in other countries as well. A typical requirement is you have to have a degree, not necessarily an ALS degree, and sorry, not an ALS certificate. In the Philippines, an ALS certificate is equivalent to secondary course completion. So between someone who received a degree and someone who received a secondary course certificate, if the nature of work is office, let us say doing some typing and everything else, sometimes the preference is those who graduated from a degree course. Sometimes, not everyone, but majority.
Gitu Ibu, sudah tangkap ya? Oke. Baik, terima
I hope
kasih.
I
Ada
understand.
lagi pertanyaan? Is there any questions? More? Ini? Ibu siapa lupa? Nah. Oke, it's okay. Ya. Oke. Oh, okay. I have a question here. I read the questions. How in the Philippines you switch the horizontal curriculum with the vertical curriculum in the IELS for the method of the PGBL, the problem-based learning? Yeah.
Sorry, the question is, do we switch from horizontal to vertical? Most of the time, actually, we're doing the same. For purposes of comparison, we have the same curriculum. The only difference is the approach. You make it, you enhance it, you make it easier for ALS learners. So they do not have the benefit of formal schooling. They definitely do not have to wear any uniform. That's one. They do not necessarily want to be placed in a classroom. They're in a community learning center. So you enhance the curriculum in such a way that it will fit in the requirements. Project-based learning is mostly a preference when you teach ALS students. So you make it, you need to make sure that the curriculum fits in. So yeah, from horizontal to vertical. Yeah, that's a common concern. Sorry, common approach.
Oke, gitu Ibu. Tadi saya agak kelewat tentang itu ya, soalnya slide-nya panjang.
I hope I answered the question.
Oh, okay. Okay, is there more questions? Silakan. Ada lagi? Ibu Ani, ada pertanyaan Ibu Ani? Belakang. Okay, I will read the question here, Pak Robi. Right. You mentioned earlier that the teacher, especially for formal education, received the special training for PBL. Yeah. So there is a transition from the teacher to project facilitator. What are the competencies are the most difficult to change for them, for the teacher?
Okay. We do have a regardless of what you're teaching, we do have a professional standards for teachers. They are subdivided into stages. The key stages, key stage 1 meaning you're a newbie, you're a new teacher, and the last stage 4, you're already very familiar, meaning you will be able to teach others. Um, PBL is a methodology, so to speak. So everyone needs to be familiar with PBL because it's a government requirement. A formal education teacher needs to be familiar because it's part of the teaching methodology. More so if you're teaching ALS, alternative learning system. However, in terms of creativity, so to speak, if you want to be very creative, you need to be uh, very familiar with the PBL approach if you're teaching if you're teaching into the alternative learning system. Because you're dealing with not necessarily children. There are definitely most of the learners are adults. Majority are adults. You need to convince them, why do I need to do this project in the first place? How will this benefit me? So as a teacher, you need to be very creative. As a competency, you need to be very creative. As a teacher in the non-formal education or ALS. Sometimes, do not quote me, however, sometimes you do not necessarily need to be creative if you're a teacher teaching in the formal classes because you can always discipline them. A typical classroom, you can always tell the students, please be quiet. I'm talking about practicality. Please be quiet. I need to be creative in a formal schooling primarily because I want everyone to learn. PBL is an approach. But doing it in a non-formal education is a bit difficult. You need to be thinking outside of the box. You cannot just think of the typical classroom methodology or PBL approaches that you do in the formal education. You don't have the luxury of having an aircon or an electric fan in your classroom with perhaps 75 people or 75 children or probably lesser who are all uh, perhaps well fed, uh, well dressed or something, as compared to someone who's dealing with uh, or very busy being employed. Who you need to convince them. That's why. Why do I need to do this in the first place? You cannot tell them outright because you need it to be able to graduate. The common concern is so what? So as a teacher, you need to be creative.
Okay, thank you. We have last question for you, Dr. Robbie. How do you measure the long-term success of the project-based learning? When we talk
Okay.
about the competency and output, how you measure those success from the student side? Yeah.
Uh, for the let me talk about the alternative learning system because we're looking at the non-formal. Success primarily because be able to encourage them to identify projects that are relevant to the community, projects that will clearly benefit the community. I did mention about the gold standard earlier. If you have a gold standard, you're able to identify gold standard projects in your community. One success indicator would be support from the community, funding support to be more specific. You get to receive, let us say, okay, because of your project, it lessen. If I'm just an example, because of your project, uh, my community gets to have several, what do you call it? One specific example, sorry. One specific example, you want to lessen the process of, let us say, applying for a license. As a learner, you've experienced, okay, it took me several years, several days to be able to complete my driver's license. Okay. You lessen the process. You initiated, okay, there are 5 steps to be able to to apply for a driver's license. Because of my project, the 5 steps were lessened into 3. So as a member of the community, it lessened time. I get to have more time for my family because I only need need to complete 3 processes instead of 5. For, let us say, a city mayor in charge of the welfare, because of because of this improvement in the process, I get to receive more funding. I get to save more money, able to flow that back to the community for additional services. So that's one success indicator. Another success indicator, there are a number of projects that were given awards. You've been recognized because of this project. Another, if you see industry uh, practitioners, industry members supporting the projects that you have developed, that's another. Most of the time, there are projects that were supported by industries. That meaning you generate jobs because of this project. So that's another success indicator. And an award as well for teachers because you've done a good job training them, teaching them how to do project-based learning.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we now come to the end of the session. Do you have like closing statement from of the VGBL from here? We have instructor from around in Indonesia. Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something from what I've shared. Uh, I purposely mentioned about what's happening in the formal education and then describe what is happening in the non-formal education for purposes of comparison.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm saying is PBL is a good approach, a good methodology for teaching. If you're looking at practical examples, this is the best approach. While not necessarily the best among several other methodologies, but at least for someone who is more inclined, for a student who's more inclined in getting employment rather than getting an academic degree, this is the best approach. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. So in the
Yeah,
Philippines, we
thank
call
you
it
very
pabuhay.
much. Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Robbie. If you don't mind, we are very happy to receive your slide.
Yes, yes,
If you
I'll share
can
it. I'll share
send
it.
through chat box.
Yes, I'll
Yeah.
do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Why I'll give it to Director Kaya in our WhatsApp account, and then it's actually a folder. It's a folder with all of the examples as well as the case studies that I
Oh,
mentioned
that's
in
very
there.
good.
Complete
That's very
information on the case studies. I'll share
okay.
it in a few minutes.
Okay, that's very good.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you. Bye.
Terima kasih. Bye-bye.
Oke, baik. Terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu. Dua yang ini agak umum ya. Jadi tidak spesifik kepada contoh salah satu project based learning dalam satu training, tetapi bagaimana keseluruhan whole look-nya, keseluruhan project based learning itu diterapkan di Filipina, karena beliau adalah memang dari Seameo gitu ya, dari kantor Seameo gitu, menjelaskan project based learning itu applied untuk baik pendidikan formal maupun pendidikan non formal begitu ya, dan dalam konteks ALS, Alternative Learning System gitu ya, termasuk yang bagaimana project based learning ini dideliver dalam skill based gitu ya, pembelajaran berbasis skill gitu yang dijelaskan tadi. Baik, selanjutnya Om Ben, saya serahkan ke Om Ben. Terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu, mudah-mudahan bermanfaat dua sesi tadi dari speaker tamu kita ya. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Baik, terima kasih Bu Ila sudah menjadi moderator dari narasumber asing tersebut. Selanjutnya mungkin kita kopi break dulu ya Bapak Ibu ya. Kopi break dulu, nanti dilanjutkan ke kelompok masing-masing ya setelah itu. Atau lebih baik mungkin setelah ngambil coffee break langsung ke ini aja ya, biar lebih efektif waktunya karena ini hari Jumat juga, mungkin bisa agar lebih efisien waktunya ya. Silahkan Bapak Ibu.